Let's look at some word problems that use percentages. So before we get to example 1, I want to look at the definition of a percent increase and also a percent decrease, which are both very similar to each other. And here I have like a formula for each one. I want to just quickly justify these by using maybe money or something like that. So I guess by that I mean, if we have, let's say $50, so that'll be the value for A, some amount, and then let's say we have some R percent, like maybe R is equal to 4%. What does it mean for this $50 to increase by 4%? What you would do is take 4% and change it to a decimal, so that would be 0.04. So like in our formula, you take the number and divide by 100, which just moves the decimal point 2 places. You would then multiply that by the amount, which is 50. And if you do that in a calculator, the value you get is 2. So this means the amount would increase by $2. But when we say percent increase, you have to add the $50 back in, which is why there's an A that's sitting right here. This is what we mean by percent increase. You take your $50, and to that, you add the amount that it grows by. So that just means you take 50, you add 2, and the value that you get is 52. And percent decrease is almost identical. The only difference is instead of adding the value, you would subtract it at the very end. So you could figure out like what is a 4% decrease of $50. The only difference is you would subtract 2 instead of add it. Let's use this idea in example 1. So we're not going to use money, but we're going to use the idea of population. In 2010, the US population was approximately 309.3 million people, and this was a roughly 9.5% increase in the population from the year 2000. Can we use this information to determine the population in the year 2000? So to do this, I'm going to define a variable. I could use A, but maybe I'll use P to represent the population in the year 2000. According to this question, whatever this value is, if you apply this 9.5% increase to it, it would take us to this new value of 309.3 million. So essentially, I'm going to take this formula. Instead of using A, I'm going to use the letter P. And then right here, I'm going to convert 9.5% into a decimal and just set it up exactly like this. So I have my population. I don't know what it is. I'm increasing it by 9.5%, which is 0.095 P. I have my population. I'm adding the percent at which it grew by. And the result, the thing that it was equal to, is 309.3 million. You could add a bunch of zeros after this, commas and zeros, but I know if I leave it this way, my answer will just be in millions of people. So all I need to do now is solve this equation for the variable P. And I'm noticing on the left side here, these are like terms, kind of looks a little bit different, but that's really 1 times P plus 0.095 P. If you add those two together, you get 1.095 times P, and that's equal to 309.3. To solve this equation for P, I just have to divide by the number that is in front of it. So just divide both sides by this entire thing. To do that, to set up my two fractions, I'm dividing by 1.095, and this I will do on my calculator. So that is 3.3 divided by 1.095. Okay, I'm gonna round this a little bit. Maybe I'll even round it to 1 decimal place because that'll match with this answer here. If I do that, I get 282.5. And what that means is million. So the population in the year 2000 was 282.5 million people. And if you apply this 9.5% increase to that amount, it would take us up to this value here. So there's a second part to this question. It says, furthermore, if this trend continues, what will the population in the year 2020 be? So essentially what I'm going to do is take this 9.5% and apply it to the 309.3 million people. So that would take us from 2010 to 2020. So this is kind of like separate here, but this is how you could approximate the world population or a country's population. You know a trend from some previous years, you could just make the assumption of if the trend holds, I'll apply it to the future. So by that I mean, I'm going to take 309.3, I'm going to assume that it's growing at this 9.5% rate. So I'm going to multiply that percent times that 309.3. And I'm going to simplify this down, just directly in my calculator. Again, I'll round this to one decimal place, but I get 338.7 million. And that is it for this problem.